Hello everyone, back tuning into today's video. Going to have a look at where next week to 10 days in today's video. It's going to take us more or less to the end of January. We'll also have a look at what's happening in the stratosphere over North Pole again, in terms of this stratospheric warming that's coming up at the end of the month. So, quite a lot to be cramming in for today's video. But before you go on with that, just very quick to mention the ads. There's video ads, most pages which own content where you watch the videos back again. Does help to pay for gasservice.com. So we'll start off just with the situation across Europe in terms of the temperatures. These were the temperatures at 11 o'clock this morning across Europe. And you can see freezing cold temperatures really through many parts of Europe, particularly the central region. So much of France locked in with sub-zero temperatures, that coming down to northern parts of Spain, up towards Germany, very cold there. Temperatures of just -4, -5, -6 at 11 o'clock this morning, and colder than that as we move eastwards. That also extends down into the southeast of Europe as well. And it's unusually cold through the Mediterranean. We've heard about the unfortunate avalanche that's occurred in Italy. Cold temperatures there, even on the coast of the Adriatic, some places really struggling to get those temperatures up to 5 or 6 degrees. Through the Mediterranean islands are usually cold temperatures into single figures across Sardinia, Corsica, also the Balearic Islands struggling to get temperatures into double digits at 11 o'clock this morning as well. Then into Spain, of course, we've heard about all of the problems that's occurring at the moment in terms of the courgettes and the vegetables and fruits that are being impacted by the cold weather and usually cold conditions again from many parts of Spain. Northern Spain, we don't really think of Spain as being a cold country. Actually, northern Spain, close to the Pyrenees, always is cold in the winter. There's always a fair bit of snow across the north of Spain in the winter. But even down in the south, you notice these southern parts of Spain where it's normally quite warm. Even there, the temperatures are struggling. And in Portugal as well, the temperatures really struggling as well. As usual for this winter, the British Isles is one of the mildest places in Europe, and included in that with Denmark and southern parts of Scandinavia as well. Though southern England is just about in the cold air, and that cold air will actually be extending a bit further northwards across the UK over the weekend and into next week. I'll talk you through that a little bit later. So that's the very cold scene that got across the continent at the moment, but closer to home, this is the central England temperature from Hadley for January. This is provisional up to yesterday, the 18th of January. We see that provisionally we are standing at 5.2 degrees, which is an anomaly of 1.7 degrees above average. I say that's provisional up to yesterday, 18th of January. So again, we see we have had another very mild month so far. This will edge down over the coming days. We can have some frosty nights and quite cold days, but I suspect we probably will come out in the end with a milder than average month. These are the 500 millibar height anomaly flow charts for the next week to 10 days. We've got the East End of the Earth here on the top and the GFS. We'll have a look at that in a moment. It's on the bottom, 500 millibars, 80,000 feet. It's an area in the atmosphere, high pressure, low pressure being moved around by a jet stream running above. This is the ridge that's brought all of the cold weather through Europe. That's a cold ridge sitting to our east. But as go to the week to 10 day period, which is around the 29th of January, we're actually being impacted by this trough that's trying to break down the ridge. I've been talking about this all week. At the start of the week, when we first started talking about it, the idea was that we would break the ridge down and go into Atlantic-driven weather early next week. That was put back then to the middle part of next week. Now it's being put back to the latter stages of next week. So quite how much we break down that ridge and reintroduce the Atlantic flow, I'm not sure. But certainly to the middle part of next week, it does look mostly dry and cold. These are the GFS temperature and precipitation ensembles next 2 weeks. Red line here, 30-year temperature average in terms of the upper air temperatures. So the rest of this week into weekend, it's staying around average and then going cold and average over weekend. Next week, that's the push of air coming in from the Atlantic just there. This is being pushed back, but it's still being signalled there sometime around the 27th of January, perhaps, which interestingly is when the stratospheric warming will be occurring over the North Pole. But that it's still there, but we get this milder Atlantic-driven interlude for the end of the month. as I say, quite how much of an Atlantic influence we bring through to the east and the southeast remains to be seen. Precipitation, again, loads of dry weather coming up for the rest of this week and the weekend and into next week as well. Middle to latter stages of next week and then through to the end of January and the start of February, we go much more unsettled then if we believe the GFS ensembles. Actually, I'll have a look at the GFS ensembles going into February tonight. Temperature anomalies for the next week coming out colder than average. These have trended colder through the week. So from the 19th of January today through to 27th of January next week, we are coming out colder than average across the UK, particularly for England and Wales. Less so for Scotland and Northern Ireland. Most of Europe still rocked in the freezer. Scandinavia still remaining significantly milder than average. Of course, it's a cold place. So where you've got those bright red colours in the top of Norway and Sweden, I mean, it is cold up there, don't get me wrong, but it's just a lot less cold than you would expect it to be in the middle of winter. The precipitation normally looks like that, so it's mostly drier than average still over the coming week through many central and western parts of Europe. Here's the generic charts then. We've got the GFS first of all. We've got high pressure dominating through the country on Monday to start next week. That's within cold air as well. That takes into Tuesday with that high pressure still in control. Wednesday, it's still there, although it's beginning to turn a little bit more unsettled across Ireland on Wednesday, a sign of things to come, because by Thursday we start to push those southerly winds in across the country with some outbreaks of rain. So that's the milder push there coming in at the end of next week. Then we go into a westerly on Friday, 27th of January. That looks quite unsettled. And then that takes us up to day 10, where it does look very unsettled by that point. We're in a strong southwesterly wind, which is very mild. That's pumping up some really mild air out of the Azores on day 10, Sunday 29th of January, but also quite a lot of rain, especially so to the north and west. And you notice that the ridge has now collapsed down towards the Black Sea. Temperatures are going to be cold through the next few days, though. So these are today's maximum temperatures in the south, looking around 4 or 5 degrees. In the north, 7s and 8s. It's cooler in the north than it has been tonight. Frosty again in the south, and maybe a little bit more widespread with the frost further north as well. Tomorrow, temperatures around 5 or 6 degrees. I mean, a widespread frost for England and Wales on Friday night. That's spreading up towards Scotland as well. Saturday looks cold with temperatures of just 2 to 5 degrees. I mean, widespread and potentially quite severe frost actually on Saturday night. We might see temperature going as low as -8 across some places on Saturday night, into a cold day on Sunday with temperatures again just 2 or 3 degrees in many places. Though the far southwest is up to 7 or 8. Another really hard frost on Sunday night. Monday looking cold as well. Further frost on Monday night into Tuesday. Tuesday looks cold. Another frost on Tuesday night into Wednesday, with Wednesday looking cold. And then finally on Thursday morning, so Wednesday night, Thursday morning, that frost is beginning to get restricted more towards the eastern side as it starts to turn milder out to west. These milder temperatures then have started to advance in from the Atlantic on Wednesday. That's on Thursday. That's a very long way off, but it is something that the GFS has been signaling for quite some time now, but we could turn a bit milder as we get through to the very end of next week. EWF, that looks very similar, so high pressure within cold air to start next week. Lots of dry and cold weather. That continues into Thursday as well, into Tuesday as well, and into Wednesday. By Thursday again, here comes those southerly winds beginning to turn milder in the west. The east could still be hanging on to cold weather on Thursday, but by Friday the Atlantic is breaking through, and then that takes us into a mild and unsettled, potentially quite wet and windy weekend for the final weekend of January. We've got the southerly winds in, so I would think it's going to be very mild with that, but also, especially for the north and west, potentially quite wet as well. This is all in the period where we've got that stratospheric warming, okay? So I just want to finish off with that. These are the stratospheric temperatures at 10 HPA, a temperature forecast from the GFS model for the next couple of weeks. We're starting today, the blue colours here, we've got those cold temperatures over the stratosphere at 10 HPA. We've got these warmer temperatures across Europe, and also extending into some parts of Russia as well. Let's push through and see what happens over the next few days with the latest forecast of a GFS model. A little bit of a warming is occurring there around Siberia as we go through into 24th of January and trying to penetrate in towards the North Pole. But still, really, it's quite cold at that point across the pole in the stratosphere. And then we go through to the 27th of January. This is when model has been consistently predicting that we would get this sudden stratospheric warming occurring. It's still there on the 27th of January. There it is with those red colours appearing across Siberia. And let's see what happens. It becomes a major warming event around the 28th, 29th, pushing into the North Pole. There it goes. The blue colours down into Europe. That's the cold temperatures. 10 HPA pushing down into Europe. We finish up like that. That's very close to a sudden stratospheric warming event. Whether it will quite meet the definition of a sudden stratospheric warming, it does have to be very closely defined. There is a strong definition of a sudden stratospheric warming. You have to get a reversal of the zonal winds, essentially, in terms of easterly over the North Pole to get a proper designated sudden stratospheric warming. Where we would do that, I'm not sure it's quite enough, but it is a very major event. At the very least, this should disrupt the polar vortex. It may not kill it off, it may not destroy it, but it should disrupt the polar vortex as we go into February. And of course, we have to wait and see what the effects of that are. It doesn't guarantee we will get cold if the polar vortex is disrupted, but it's interesting, to say the least, that the GFS is consistently going for this very big warming event in the stratosphere, 10 HPA, at the end of January. You would expect the effects to begin to appear probably from around the 10th, 12th of February onwards, so into the second half of February. That's when you would expect to find the polar vortex beginning to slow down and be disrupted, if not destroyed. It probably won't be destroyed, but you'd expect it to be disrupted from around the middle part of February onwards. So wait and see on that. For the next week to 10 days, it looks like we're going to have lots of cold weather over the weekend and into next week. Second half of next week, we're still signalling this period to break down the ridge and return to milder Atlantic-driven weather. It has been put back, but consistently now the models are pinpointing that for Thursday, a week today, so we shall wait and see. Later on today, we'll have a look at the GFS ensembles, which takes us into February. That'll be tonight. So come back for that. That's all for now. Thanks for watching.